Good afternoon. Welcome to my Facebook Live this afternoon. I hope everybody is well. It's Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. and this is Jenny McCormack from Gemini Crafts. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hi Tracy, on the ball as ever. Right, let me get myself organised. Let's have that the right way round. I think that would be good. Then I know where I'm crafting from. Right, let me see what is happening here. I seem to have an issue somewhere along the line. Sorry everybody, I will be with you in 1 second. If I can just get my tablet to talk to me. I know it wants to really. There we go. We're getting there, we're getting there. Hi Tracy, that looks like Scylla, I think. There we go, that's a bit better. We have a bit of life now. I can't believe we're at Tuesday already. It's just whizzing by this week already and we're only 2 days in. Hey ho. Oh gosh, I think life could be so complicated, do you? Right, who do we have? So Tracy and Scylla, I think. It says I've got other people, but they're not showing up. I'm sure they will shortly. So I'm following on of my season of using the Posted For You set, which consists of this punch here. And also there is a matching stamp set. Dig that out. Seems to have buried it somewhere. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'll find it shortly. Not that we need it for the main part anyway today. Oh, there it is, right in front of me. So this was the set that we've been using that has the matching punch. But today what we're going to do is use the punch as a stencil so that you can create any postage stamp designs, not necessarily having to use the stamp set. So I'm going to put that to one side. I'll probably use this stamp a bit later on. But what we're going to do is create a stencil with the punch and then stamp through that. So let me show you the ones that we did yesterday, which was this one here, and I think I did this one live, and then after that I had a go with this design but slightly different format. So I took this vertically, did that set of stamping there, and then this one is another one that is horizontal. So these are going to appear in a blog hop that I'm doing tomorrow. Well, it starts late this evening, so I'll post a link to that and you can follow demonstrators across the world using the new in colour. So I happen to have used the in colour cards here. And I like the fact that these dots make it look a bit like, you know, a stamp edge, a postage stamp edge. So these are the ones that we've done. These are the extra ones that I did. And what I actually did was space these closer together because I thought that was more effective than the one that I did live, where I'd spaced them out a little bit too much. So we learn. Okay, oh, the system's still coming to life. So we are going to use a magical ingredient today, and that is glycerine. And I first saw this used by one of our lovely team members, Karen Spreckley. It gives you a really nice smooth ink mixture if you're blending with a sponge. And I've never tried it before. I bought some glycerine, so I bought this from the food department, and it's just a little bottle, but I have a feeling it's going to last a very long time, probably longer than its best before date. Oh, okay, so best before date was May 2020. So you can see I probably had this for 6 months, never used it. So it'll stay in my craft room now. It won't go in my food cupboard. I'm just going to show you how you can do some blending with that. So it's the first time for me to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a mask. And I'm going to use a stencil rather, and I'm going to use a piece of vellum. And the reason I use that is so I can see through when I'm doing my sponging. So this is a piece of vellum that is approximately 4 1/4 inches by 3. And all I'm going to do is pop my postage stamp punch in, have it fairly central, and then just pop that out. Now you could have multiple ones of these if you wanted, so that it didn't get too messy, because what we're going to do is sponge over each of these. So that's my base stencil, and I'm going to use some shimmer white card today just for a change. So this has a little bit of sparkle in it. It's not very bright here today. In fact, it's just started to rain. So you won't be able to see the little sparkle in there. So what I'm going to do is, if I wanted this central, I'm just going to put a pencil line. So you could measure it, but I'm not always one for measuring, as you probably know. So what I do is I let the grid paper do the work. Let me just put a comment on here because my other system isn't talking to me. Then I can see who's there. Hello, Marlene. And it is Scylla. Oh, and Pauline. Tracy. Okay, so if you're good on measuring and things like that, then that's absolutely fine. What I tend to do is use the grid paper, hello Lynn, and let that do the work for me. So if I want to find the centre panel along here, all I'm doing is looking at these outside edges and centralising my card so that's the same distance here to here. I then know that that across that piece there is central. And then all I need to do is calculate where the centre of that piece is. Now I've got 2 on that side and 3 on that side, so that's not going to help me, is it? So I'm going to go for that centre piece. And now I've got, if I put it here, I've got 3 and 2 whole ones. 2 whole ones and 3 little blocks, so that I know that that centre line here is the centre line of my card. Hi Kim, thanks for joining me. Obviously if you're happy measuring and just calculating it, then that's fine. What I'm going to do is just draw a line down the centre, because that will give me a line to basically work round, and I'm going to rub out this line when I've finished. Okay, so I'm just going to do it very lightly. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same down here. So I look for my center lines, in this case this one here. I'm hoping you can see that okay. And then I just work up and down. So I know that that is halfway from that one, and this is halfway of that block from the 5. Okay, so again I can just use that to draw a line. Okay, now if I didn't want this centered, obviously I could position this higher, because what I'm then going to do is mask off each section like so. Okay, now what you can do if you're doing a lot of these is create a single mask that has all 4 postage stamp punches made. And all I did for that is exactly the same method. I used a line down the centre and across, and then I just took one line either side to line up my punch. So what I could do is line up my centre line with the centre line on my paper, and I know then that all 4 of those are in line. Now the only problem I found with that is that this was really too wide. They needed to be closer together. Okay, so what I could do is do another one, but just come in a little bit closer, if that makes any sense. So not have this area quite so big. Right, let's see if we have any luck on our tablet. Then I can see your comments a bit better. This is on a, there we go, on a bit of a go slow today. I don't know why. Okay, now I've got you all there, that's perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just use this single stencil. I'm just going to measure it by eye. Okay, I'm going to hold it down with some washi tape to hold it in position so it doesn't move around too much. Okay, but I am going to do that by eye. So let's start with the first one. And I don't know why, but I want to start at top right hand side. So I'm hoping you can see that I've got the line that I've drawn as the centre, and then I've just positioned my vellum accordingly. So this is why I find it easier to use vellum, because if you used white card you wouldn't be able to see any of the markings underneath. So I'm going to use some washi tape, and what I'm going to do is blend some ink and some glycerine together and create my postage mark stencils. I'm just grabbing some washi tape here. So if you haven't got washi tape, you could use household masking tape. Just make sure that you that it's not too strong. You don't want it to tear your paper afterwards. So all I'm going to do, as I say, is I've just lined that by eye with a little margin all the way around, and I'm going to run that across there, so that's also holding it down onto my grid paper. Hoping you can see that okay. Let me know if you can't. Going to do the same with this one, and what I might do is put, it'll be alright for the sponging, but when I come to stamp over it I'm going to put a post-it note so that I don't go over the bottom. So I think I can get away with those 2 pieces. So it's holding that onto my grid paper, and it's holding my stencil onto my shimmery white. Okay, so that's ready. Let me show you what I'm going to do with the glycerine. So I've got a piece of paper we can practice on. So all I've done is literally taken a drop of glycerine. I'll put another one on just so you can see. That's all it needs, and that will be absolutely plenty. And then I have chosen, what have I chosen? Balmy Blue as my ink colour. So I've dropped, let me just move this over, some ink onto here, and I've got my glycerine here. Let me know that you can see that. And I'm just going to use a sponge that I have here. So this was once a nice yellow sponge. This comes from the Stampin' Up sponges, which are circular, and then all I do is cut them into pie sliced pieces, so that you've got plenty to go around. And what I do with these when I finish with them is I put them in the washing machine, and obviously it had something dark in with it. It's in jolly good. Thank you. Thank you, Lem. So all you need to do is pick up with your sponge, and you want it nice and rounded, a little bit of the glycerine and a little bit of your ink, like so, and just create a little sponged area here. Okay, so what that allows you to do is it means that the ink is blending with the glycerine. So rather than water and creating a watered down colour, we're just mixing it with a little bit of glycerine. So if I just use this spare piece here, can you see you get a really soft effect? If I do it, it's quite difficult because now obviously it's got glycerine in it, but if I just did it on its own, so a little bit less glycerine, there's a little bit more marking in there. It's not very obvious because obviously I've got glycerine in there already. So this is quite an old technique. I know Karen's used it for many years. She's a very talented crafter, but I've never used it myself. So let's give it a go. And you can obviously top up the glycerine or your coloured ink. Remember, if you're changing colours, you'll need to change your sponge. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of that, little bit of the ink, and then basically I'm priming it on here like so, and then I'm just making sure my fingers are clean. Let me just put a post-it note on the side. Just put my hand on really, so I don't want to make a big mess. So I'm going to bring this sponge in from the edge, ideally. Let's have a little bit more ink. So can you see, it just allows me to sort of move that ink around a little bit more than if it was just a water base. Obviously you can use multiple colours as well. Hi Linda, thanks for joining us. Hope you're okay. Been a bit quiet, maybe you've worn out at the weekend. Oh, is that sponging or glycerine or both? So there is my first one, and the nice thing about this is it does take a little bit more time to dry, but you've got time to sort of move the colour around. So Just going to take that off and then very carefully lift this out. So I'm just removing my washi tape. Oh, glycerine. Yeah, I've never used it before, Linda. This is the first time. Actually, I could probably do that all together. Okay, so there I've got my first postage stamp mark. And what I can do now is lay that piece down again. Now what you can do, because it's vellum, this ink sits on the top for quite a little while. So what you can do is just wipe it with this piece of tissue if you want to avoid getting extra marks where you don't need them. Okay, so now I'm going to line that up again, and I'm using the lines underneath the vellum to get that as accurately as I wish. So I'm just spacing at either side of my solid line. I'm going to grab my washi tape. So just make sure you don't turn this vellum over, because otherwise any wet ink on there will get carried across. So just going to put those two pieces down. Cover this up just so I don't get my dirty hands anywhere. And then pick up a little bit more glycerine and a bit of the colour. So Linda, were you using sponges and ink refills when you did it? Or another, you might have been using daubers and things like that. So just coming in from the edge. And also you can do this on a bigger scale. Now you can see here where that ink is sitting. So that's perfect to give you time to move it around. Like so. Okay, so daubers and stamp pads. Yep, so there's lots of different ways of doing it. You could also use a brayer if you're doing a larger area. That would also work. So it's the same really as all our ink techniques, but just using glycerine as a medium rather than just the ink. Okay, so let me remove that. And I've got my two postage stamps. Okay, then I'm just going to do the same with these. I'm going to put, which way am I going to put it? I think I'll put it this way. So again, I'm just lining them up. As I said, you could do a single mask like I have here with all four cut out. Then you could use a brayer over the whole thing. That would be really effective. Okay, let's stick this one down. Sorry, my hand's in your way. So I'm just reusing this tape. If it gets particularly wet or damp, then just replace it with some fresh tape. Okay. Just going to put that on there. This is just so I can hold it with my left hand. So I'm just picking up a little bit more glycerine. Let's move this over. It's probably got more glycerine on than it needs. Ah, right, yes. I got it from, I'd seen Karen do it the first time. So, let's do these last ones. So I'll do these fairly quickly. Just gives a really softer effect. So just watch the corners that you're not pushing against the edges too much. Because if you push against it too much, you might go underneath. same as you would with any stenciling, really. That one, and then one more. Obviously you don't have to do 4, you can just do 2, 1, whatever you would like. Okay. So this is still quite wet, I can see that. Just balance that little bit out. And this one here. So again, just doing it by eye to measure it. Now because I've got this quite wet, it might pick up some of the ink from the other pieces, but fingers crossed. So last little bit. I may need more ink, but I've got almost too much glycerine on there, so lesson learned, Jenny, don't put too much glycerine on. So just bringing that in from the edge so I've got enough ink on there to do it. There we go. Obviously you can make this as dark as you want. Because I want to stamp over it, I've left it fairly light. And you can just see there where I had the edge. Okay, let me move that out of the way. So you can just wipe this down with a tissue and keep this for another time. Don't waste it. What I would do is perhaps keep it in the stamp case, then I'll know that that's although you may not need the stamp set with it. Okay, so what my plan is I'm going to cover it up and then stamp again where I want to put some images. So what I'm going to do is actually create another clean template so that I'm not transferring too much of anything. Actually, I might do it with some grid paper, because that will absorb any spare ink. Let me just do that. Cut that out. Like so. So I can do that, and then I know it's not going to pick up too much of the glycerin. You can still see some of that is slightly damp. So I think what I will do is just heat it with a heat gun so that it doesn't run. Let me just grab that. So I think I definitely got it too wet in terms of the glycerin. So I'm just going to dry this off. That looks better. Okay. I'm going to leave the rubbing out until right at the end, because I want to make sure that's all dry before I do any more. And then I'm just going to stencil a design through the gap. So I had two thoughts, and you can tell me which you prefer. So I thought I could use elements from Saiing Home to make a man's card, or I could use little bits of the zebras from Zany Zebras. So let me know what you think, what you prefer. So I've got Misty Moonlight. Actually, I could use early espresso for either of them, really. So, Saiing Home or Zebras? You can choose. Any preferences? Let me just wipe my fingers, which have now got glycerine on. So Tracy says Saiing Home. Linda says Zebras, so I've got one vote for each. Saiing Home, okay. Saiing Home it is. Goes with the blue. Yes, true. Okay. So I'm going to choose, I think, a bit of the anchor, one of the boats, the smaller one. Might have the birds. Sorry, these haven't got labels on, I do apologise. And a bit of the compass. That's what I'm thinking. Obviously you could put a sentiment in one of them if you wanted to. So let me just grab some blocks. And actually I was thinking Misty Moonlight, but I quite fancy doing this in early espresso as a nice contrast. Let's pop that on the anchor and the boat. Dink. Hello Linda, thanks for joining us. I hope you're well this afternoon. So I'm going to pop this on here. Now the only thing I have to watch out for is if I had a large image that it doesn't come over the bottom here. So if that was the case, I could just put a post-it note on and know that I wasn't covering anything else up. So here we go, I'm going to use early espresso. I'm going to move my glycerine out of the way. Ding. And I'm just going to stamp on our test piece to see what it looks like. I'm going to move this up because I know that'll be out of your way otherwise. So I'm just inking up the sailing boat. Hi Joe. Yep, that works perfectly. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which ones I put in which place. I think I want the birds on the top level. So I'm just inking up. If I move this over a little bit so that you can see, hopefully, inking up the boat. And I'm going to put that here. Now obviously I could turn the whole thing round and have it in portrait. I could actually have two boats on here, couldn't I, if I wanted? Okay. There's one. Actually I will have, so that's going to look odd, isn't it? I'll put the bottom one here. So what you do need to do is either hold that down or use a piece of washi tape to hold it so you don't move it. So I'm just holding that for a little bit extra pressure. So I've got boats in that one. I'm going to have birds in the top. I'll have the anchor here. Oh yes, I could do, Joe. You're quite right. You're quite right. could have this at a little angle. That's my anchor. There we go. And I definitely want my birds on the top. Oh, Jo's watching while she's got a Zoom meeting going on. Bless you. Let's put this one here for the birds. So Jo's right. If you use the Stamparatus, you could you know, make sure that it was really accurate, your stamping. Right, let me get my birds the right way round. I could have them flying off actually. Caught a little bit at the bottom, but I think we'll be alright. There we go. And then my final one is going to be a bit of the compass. It's a very big anchor for those little boats, isn't it? But you get the idea, that's the important thing. So I'm just lining that up again. Whoops. Like so. Oh, you need to get the zebras. Shall I show you something? This is my little earlier practice. I thought that was sweet. I just did it to make sure it would work. So that was 2 heads of zebras for Linda. Okay. So I'm just inking this up. Sorry if this is off the edge, and I'm not worried where this is going to sit in terms of whether it says north, south, east or wet. Yeah, the knot is smaller. I could have gone for anything, couldn't I, really? There we go. So you can really get as artistic as you want with these. So you could blend multiple colours. You could have sort of like rainbow stamps. You could also use dies to create your template by placing those obviously in your die cutting machine. So if you've got different shapes, obviously this is ideal because it's a postage stamp type punch. Whoops. With the you know, bits going in the right direction. But yes, zebras are rather cute. Although you'd have to watch out with this one. Look, you've got a head and then just a tail. Yes, I think you're right. It does. It's like a, you know, a window, isn't it? It's just like a window. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is dry that off, and then I will rub out the pencil line. Okay, I'm not sure if it's going to be dry enough now, because what I don't want to do is smudge this, because I did get it wetter than I needed to. So sorry about the noise. But this technique, let me just move this out of the way so you can see it, is perfect really for any design. You could use florals, just looking at what I've got here, you could use the skeleton leaves and the trees and the branch from Rooted in Nature. You could use the cogs and everything from Geared Up Garage. They will look nice too. You can have the sort of dirt in one, the toolbox, the oil can. So really, you could put anything in. And I remember doing this design years ago, before Stampin' Up. Hi Claire. And I had very specific, I'm sure I had specific stencils for it. But all you need to do is just grab yourself some vellum, punch out the shapes in the design you want, and away you go. So what you could have is 3 vertical ones. I think that would also look really nice, or any combination. You could have smaller ones, really entirely up to you. And you could get away with them even just being plain without the edge if you wanted to. You could go really dark as well and then heat emboss your designs on top of it. That would also work. So let me see if this is dry yet. I think it is. We'll give it a go. Yes, I do like the fact that it goes over the edge. Alright, let's try it on this one here. So if you've got pencil mark, just make sure you're using a good quality rubber, nice clean rubber for getting rid of the lines. You don't want to smudge any of your pencil marks on there. So I'm just using this piece of post-it note just to hold on to that. And then this one here. There we go. Voila. So what I can do now is layer that up onto a background layer and onto a card. You could add either a sentiment across the bottom or across the middle. I'm tempted to put the postmark stamp on. What do we think? Find ones from yesterday. So yesterday, for example, this is using the stamp and the punch to punch it out, and I put this special delivery in the center, and I'm thinking whether to do that on here, or I could have them offset, which I did on this one. See what you think while I'm loading it up. Okay, so I'm thinking early espresso layer and a blue card underneath. What do I have to hand? So this is Bashful Blue. This is Night of Navy. Or I could go white with a layer behind. Could have sworn I had some early espresso cut ready. Linda agrees. I should add the postmark in. Oh yes, balmy blue. Thank you, Linda. Oh, oh dear. I was thinking that's another option on the white. Well, this is it onto the navy. Could add that layer behind it just to bring in that espresso like that. So this says Love the Blues, no postmark. Some of you said add the postmark. I might do one here and one here. Navy's stunning. So, doesn't need the espresso, does it? So, I could do the postmark in soft suede, so it's just a bit lighter than the espresso. Maybe. Hello, Jeanette. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So I could do one there, one there, or leave it off altogether. Can't decide. Thank you, Linda. No postmark anymore unless you're good. Can't decide. Temptation says I would put one in the middle, but it overwrites those two, so I could bring it down, but then it will look like I haven't done it properly. So maybe I will leave this one, but do one with the zebras, and then just make sure I put the zebras out to the edges. Oh, put it on the inside. Well done, Lily. Clever girl. Okay, so let us put this together. So I'm just going to put it straight on. I'm not going to add a layer. So. Voila. And I'll grab a piece for the inside. I'm going to use the backing of this. Oh, yep. Oh no, it's got a little mark on it. Good try. So I'm going to use this with a postmark on it. Oh yes, put it on the envelope as well. We did that yesterday. It was really quite stunning on the envelope. Here. Voila. So that's going to go on the inside like that. A little bit there, a little bit there. Go. There we have it. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, you think I need to do, I can do zebra one now if you want me to. I'll do zebra one now if you want to put up with me doing it. I'll do it really as quick as I can. those out of the way for the minute. Okay, get my fingers clean. I could do zebras in different colours actually, with just a very light edge. I could do a zebra in each of the four of the ink colours, couldn't I? Tempted. Now I said I'll make it really easy and quick. Okay, zebras it is, girls. You've twisted my arm. I have to say, zebras was my first thought. It was indeed. Okay, let me put this to one side for a minute. Let me just measure this up for the centre. Let's grab another piece of grid paper. So that's my centre line in there. And then going the other way, if I make 4 my centre line. So I'm literally just using that as a line. Quick and simple, no measuring. Okay, so that's going to be where I'm going to put my stencil. Now I might try with daubers and an ink pad. Oh dear. Right, let me see. Oh, do I really want, I don't want it too, what background colour should I do? So the others were blue. Make sure I've got a fresh one of these. Right, what colour background, everybody, for my stamps? I'm just going to wipe this off. Oh, you get more than a free stamp set if you want it. Bless you, Linda. Right. Let's clean that off. Let's add a little bit of glycerine. Whoops. I need a little stopper on that because it comes out rather fast. Grey. Lynn says grey. So I'm thinking smoky slate if I have that ink refill. So for anybody who doesn't know, all of our main Stampin' Up inks, you can purchase the refills and you can just refill your ink pad with them. So this is Smoky Slate. Yes, and then Magenta Madness card base, and I was thinking also Magenta Madness Zebras. Would be quite good fun. Right, and I'm going to get this one so inky, she says. So too much glycerin, I should say. So let's see what this looks like. That works. That works. Okay. I'll pop this down here. find my stencil, which I've hidden. Grab my washi tape. Let's go. Okay. And a bit of paper so I don't get my fingers and my dirty fingers everywhere. Take some of the colour out. Right. So I'm just making sure I'm coming in from the edge. And I do apologise that my hand is right in your way, I know. One day I'll have lovely ladylike hands. I think not. You just have to put up with me as I am. I can make this a little bit dark. I don't want to go too dark because I want the contrast of the Zany Zebras. That's one. Put that one in. Let's see how we go. Well, thank you, Lynn. I don't know, I see lots of other demonstrators that are beautifully, just beautiful hands really. But I guess we all get the same result. We get a crafted image and that's all that matters. Is that still in your line of view, ladies? And obviously you could use a what's the word? A stencil on top of this as well. You know, if you had a stripy stencil, you could use that too. Okay. That was a bit off, that one, wasn't it? But never mind. That's because I was hurrying. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. See if I can correct it slightly. Like so. Let's have a little bit more ink. It does, my phone's telling me that it might be impaired because the temperature is very high. Right. So you could use daubers, you could use a brayer. I'm using a sponge and ink from an ink refill. Oops. But you could easily use ink straight from the edge of the ink pad. I've got a little bit of pattern going on there. And last one. I've got a little bit of line. Obviously that was right on the edge, wasn't it? So I need to be a bit more careful. Take that bit off. Hopefully I can cover it up with this. So it went off this edge here. Things I do for you. Right, let's give this a go. Be careful not to go over the edge this time. It's better. There we go. Okay, so as I say, keep your template, especially if it's vellum, but just wipe it down with the tissue. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to punch a template out. I might be able to use this one actually. This is not too inky here to use. Right, Zany Zebras. Here they are. So I've got 3 zebras, and then I could put a birthday message in one, couldn't I? So, got one here. One in there, one in there, and then a sentiment in that one. Actually, I might do that. Cover up that little glitch, like so. So Zany Zebras, all the same colour or one of each? Oh, hi Christine. Thanks for joining us. We're having fun with using the postage stamp punch to make a stencil. Here's one that I made earlier, like so. But I'm challenged to do one with the zebras. So, one of each of the colours. Okay, so I've got Just Jade, Cinnamon, or yes, I think those 3 I'm going to go for. I've used far too much Misty Moonlight recently. And a sentiment in one, do you think? Oh, now it's telling me it's running out of battery. Alright, I'm going to get a move on. Do it in ultra quick time before everything disappears. Okay, so here's my mask going in place. I've got a pink Zany Zebra, making sure that I'm not coming off the edge of my mask, like so. There's one. This is the one that's going to go in there. Just Jade. Now, normally I would put my sentiment in here, but as I've got a little bit of a blotch going on there, I'm going to put one of my zebras in. That was close. Nearly stamped it. I want to get the top of his back in. Yes, unfortunately my plug is upstairs, so I'm hoping 10% will keep me going. 1, 2. this one here, so they're all looking sort of in that way. And if I do disappear, don't put your stamp in the glycerine, then I'll finish it. It's because I wasn't expecting to be this long. Hey ho. So this one here, I'm going to need an extra post-it note underneath, or something underneath. To cover this up. Just attach that and then I'll know I'm covered. Right, here we go. There's that one in there. It's that one I'm using, isn't it? In cinnamon. Oh, racing stripes. Oh, that's such a fun thing, isn't it? Right, here we go. Fingers crossed. Right, I know that's moved. There we go. Cute. And a sentiment, which I'm going to do in Magenta Madness, because I'm going to do magenta card base. Or should I do it? I'll do it in espresso. I'm thinking, happy birthday, kick up your heels. Da, 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 da. Happy birthday. It's time to celebrate. That's what's going on there. Right, against the clock. Now I can't see early espresso ink pad. Here it is. Right. Right, just going to see how straight this is. That's straight enough. Even the happy birthday's got a little bit of stripes in it. There we go. Oh, good. I'm impressed, Christine. Whew. Made it. I know I've got to scrub out the lines, but you'll get the effect. This is actually Melon Mambo, but there we are. We made it before it disappeared. Right, let me see if that's dry enough. Just layer these up. Just going to put that on there. So tomorrow, ladies, I'm live. It's Wednesday. I'm live at 10 AM tomorrow. Thursday is 7 PM. There we go. And then Friday, I did say it was going to be 5, but it will be later than that. So I will confirm if it's 6 or 7. Find my rubber. I can rub out my lines again. So just covering this up so I don't catch anything untoward. I didn't dry these. I didn't have quite so much glycerine on. Just watching for that ink on there. So as I say, if you've got any pencil lines, just make sure you're using a good quality, clean rubber. This is a Pentel one. There we go. And the question is, are we going to put a postmark on it? Thank you. Oh, thank you, Deborah. Hi, Baz. Yes, that Linda always calls me Jenny Jen. I'm quite used to it. Could be a lot worse, couldn't it? So, postmark or no postmark? I didn't really put them far enough away, did I? That was what I was going to do. Because I think that will work. I'm going to risk it. No. Oh, everybody says no. I know. That's why I did 5 o'clock actually. Oh, nobody wants postmarks. Just not on, is it? Okay. I'll let you off. Okay, I'll make a decision on Friday. Okay, Friday at 7. It's only because I'm out till 5:30. So that is why. Okay, so these are our 2 cards. Okay. Using the postage stamp as a stamp punch as a stencil template. Battery is going, so I made it just in time. If you want to catch what we did yesterday, this is what we did. Oh, they're all saying no to postmark. So this was yesterday's one. You can catch that. Okay, but this is today's. So you'll be able to watch it all on catch up. I'm about to lose my battery. Thank you so much for joining me.